Hello and welcome to this group of videos which I have called Masterclass 2017. My name's Barry Beckham. These videos are a little bit different from the others on my website. I already have a comprehensive batch of videos on the site called Photoshop for Photographers. A series of videos that will take you through an entire creative learning process from setting up Photoshop right through to creative editing, learning layers, selections and RAW along the way. I also have other dedicated sets of videos on my website for those who would rather concentrate on just one subject, such as layers, shooting RAW, making selections, things along those lines. The images you'll see in Masterclass 2017 were all created as the videos were being recorded. But of course, if I'm going to include detailed and creative work, then of course the videos will be marginally longer. I also try to offer some creative inspiration as we go through the making of the tutorials, but the success of that really needs to be your view rather than mine. Here's the starting image of the first video. This video tackles some of the problems we all face from time to time. We're shooting with a long telephoto lens in low light where we have shallow depth of field and a fast moving subject. This gives us a need for a high ISO. How do we shoot in those conditions, and more importantly, how do we manipulate the image to create that wow value without causing more image editing problems than we solve? The main issue, I think, is that the background needed different manipulation than the bird itself. When we capture the best exposure for manipulations in these conditions, our image thumbnail isn't going to look that appealing, and I'm sure you'll agree it didn't. But the wow value is in there. We just need to use solid Photoshop techniques to bring them out. The cartwheel. One of the skills we need to develop is to be able to spot an image that may have potential from within a batch of many other thumbnails. What we've done here is we've taken 3 images and combined them into a high dynamic range image. But the HDR that Photoshop gives us these days is not the hit and miss HDR effect we've been used to in past years. Here Photoshop combines the dynamic range of the 3 images, but we still need to use Photoshop and Camera Raw editing skills to make the most of them. I've also chosen a black and white conversion through Adobe Camera Raw with some strategic colour to add some impact and wow value to what was a simple subject. The French at War Part 1. Renovating old images is always therapeutic, I think. We also learn a lot about image editing in general as we repair our old family photographs, and in addition we do have something worthwhile to show for it at the end of the exercise. I had some old French World War I images that I scanned on a flatbed scanner, and I wanted to create something that would make a large piece of wall art, an image that would easily print 40 inches in width or even more. So part 1 deals with the renovation of the images, and we make this easier using Photoshop's batch processing too. In part 2 we use layers and presentation techniques to frame and present our French at War images. We demonstrate quick and easy ways to do this, and to a very high standard, certainly good enough for a large print or a canvas wrap. It means we need to ensure all the images are the same size, but all that can be done in Photoshop's layers. Scapes. Here we have another great example where we see a dull image thumbnail, lacking appeal and any wow value at all. the colour balance isn't very good and the image looks pale and weak, but the exposure and the composition is actually pretty good. So colour balance is an important part of adding appeal. Here we avoid the excessive blue that we often see in images where colour is enhanced, but where the colour balance started off wrong. The problem, as I understand it, is the wavelength of light. Blue is a shorter wavelength and any tweak of colour is likely to overdo the blue. But there are ways to avoid this pitfall, and we demonstrate them here. We also need to enhance the sky, but we mustn't leave any evidence along the hills or the horizon that we've done any editing. Far too often, evidence of less than perfect editing of the sky can be seen 100 meters away in many of the pictures that I see. That's not so good. Filter fun. You will notice that most of the videos within this set run for about 30 minutes. There was no plan in that, it's just how long they take. I've always had a soft spot for filters ever since the early days of digital photography, when we used cameras with just 1 million pixels in the sensor. I think a good filtered image greatly depends on selecting the right type of image in the first place, but then preparing that image so the filters can be applied. But rarely do I find adding filters straight out of the box works for me. I want to produce a filter effect that's a little more unique, because the effect the filter applies may work great in one part of the image but not another. So we need to deal with those problems and to present the best result possible. This image isn't demonstrated in this set, but it's exactly the same techniques as the previous image you saw. The red car project. I've used this car and the technique before, but it was one of those techniques I used recently on a different car project, one that was far more intricate and time consuming. I've included that image called a delage for you to view in Photoshop. Now you'll see the delage car as we go through the video. But if you're going to have a go at this technique for the first time, it does make sense to start with something a little more manageable for that first attempt. My delage car needed a lot of work on the tyres because it was shot while standing in long grass, and the grass came a fair way up those tyres. My red car avoids those issues, being on a solid surface, and it's a more straightforward shape to cut out. But as you can see, we can have great fun with backgrounds, and you will see there are many avenues you can take here. An infrared panorama. One project that I was not sure whether to include or not is the manipulation of an infrared image. Obviously, not many photographers would have access to a converted infrared camera. However, the techniques we would need here are the same as those we would want for any monochrome image. And in addition, I think infrared has an interest even to those who do not have an infrared camera. Who knows, I may even inspire you to give infrared some thought, especially as we get so little back on our second-hand cameras when we come to trade them in. So why not consider a conversion? So here I started with 8 portrait images, all shot handheld, and we use Camera Raw to create and manipulate our panorama into an aggressive black and white. There is an old saying that says you cannot turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. Well, perhaps you can when you start to think about montage. Here we take a number of images that individually may not be that impressive, but combining them often can be, and we create something which is unique to us. The basis of a montage is experimentation, but that doesn't mean it's a hit and miss process. There is some plan to it, and I'll explain what I mean as we go through the creation of this particular image. So when we create a montage with 6 images, as I indicate here, of course we don't start with just 6 images. We do need many more than that to allow us the freedom to try different images within the montage we're making. So the trick is to arrange the images within our montage with good composition and a good centre of interest. And here we show you how we go about that. To find our Masterclass 2017 set of videos, come to the website at www.beckhamdigital.com.au, place Masterclass space 2017 into the search field at the centre top of the page and click search, and you'll see it appear in the centre of the page.